All right, g'day, hi, and welcome. Part 4 of the keel boat versus what kind of keel you're going to get. The reason why I think people should spend so much time researching what kind of keel they're going to, because it's what you have to live with, right? Now, I do see a lot of videos, and I do understand a lot of the sailing videos out there. Okay, and I'm not an expert at any of it. I'm just a guy that's played around with it, and I haven't been sailing in years, but it's just I still happen to have the boat, so why not? Why not talk the discussion? A lot of the sailing channels I'm finding there's a bit of a repetition to them, and some of that repetition is basically here's a young couple, they're just married, whatever. Now they're going to go find a fixer-upper boat and live on it with no experience whatsoever. And I'm thinking, okay, this looks like a formula, like a daydreamer kind of formula, because if you are considering doing the liverboard thing because you watch some nice videos with all the highlights, first thing I would recommend, and this was what was told to me a million times by a million other people with boats. The first year you buy a boat, especially if you're buying the budget boat, we're going to do a discussion on the budget boats. None of them are. Here's our budget, $180,000 budget boat. That's not a budget boat. This is a budget boat ish, and this is expensive enough. This is a $10,500 boat when I bought it new. I'm hoping I'll get $7,000 or $8,000 for it when I sell it. But no, this is not. I wouldn't even consider this a budget boat. A budget boat's like. So a good deal at $3,500 or $5,500. That's a budget boat, regardless of what it is. But anyway, getting back to the keel thing, talking about how the modern keels are actually safer because they're more efficient, and you're going to spend less time, in the dangerous waters, so to speak. That's one thing. But the thing is that it's always a newer couple, and I used to have the same thing. I wanted either an Alberg 22, a Holman 20, a Bayfield 25, or the the Alberg 29 or an Alberg 30. Those were or an Alberg 37 if I was ever a millionaire. You know what I mean? And the thing about that is that those boats are slow. They are slow. They're old designs. All these boats are really slow. They don't tack very quickly. Contessa 26. I thought if I was going to cross the Atlantic in a boat under 30 feet, that would be the boat. The second boat I'd pick would be this. Although this is not really, you'd have to do a lot to outfit this. The biggest liability on this would be the main hatch. It's too big. The boat that this replaced, which was the Hughes 500. It was a 25-footer, same hull, everything like that, but it was a 5-foot keel and a stepped mast, right through. But it was only 5'10" or 5'4" under the. It was a midget offshore racer club boat, Mork boat, whatever. And it was designed just as the J24 came out. That boat was about a 5.5 knot boat, probably a little bit, but basically otherwise the same boat. It's just this is they couldn't market that boat as a racer because it was now too slow with all the newer, faster boats coming out. But it was the same thing, same formula, skeg rudder. The boat, the hatchway was only like this, and then the top hatch. I mean, it was like getting into a submarine, and I really wanted that boat. It was a great looking deck on it, really sleek. Built again, a boat that for its size, you would it was probably heavier built. Like this thing is heavier built than most 30-footers I've been on. It's a chunk of a boat. It's a really, really well designed boat for what it is, and they usually come on the market at a decent thing. And one of the big things that kept selling me on this boat was not so much that it looked great and everything like that, it was roomy and all that, but below the water line, it was a good compromise of the cutaway keel, where I get a little. This does not tack anywhere near as fast as what my Tanzer 22 did, and definitely not as fast as some of the other boats I was lucky enough to jump on once in a while, like the Tanzer 26. That thing tacks great. I mean, it's not phenomenal, but they're good. And the thing is that this boat, one thing I love about it is that it pretty much sails itself. It's real, like it. You wouldn't want to, you wouldn't win any races with it, but 4.5, 5.5 knots was kind of my average cruising speeds. But it was like once you got up to speed on this boat just, you trimmed your sails and you didn't even have to touch the like. You almost didn't even need a like you could just set your sails, and if the wind stayed consistent, the boat stayed consistent. Like it didn't. It just and it was so good. Like it's a good cruising boat. And then it's just a good cruising boat. Very solid, very comfortable, not too lively. A good. This would be a good beginner boat for people, but it's slow. And what I mean by slow is like 1 knot difference is a boat that finishes the race somewhere and a boat that's always last. You know what I mean? So that's where your keel is going to kind of catch you. Like if you're just going to be sitting at the dock all the time, a boat like this is fantastic. Like my next boat is going to be a keel boat. I don't think I want anything under a 5-foot keel. I want a fast, high aspect ratio boat. What if you run aground with it? Well, boats, even with a single, boats with a fin keel, a lot of them do run grounds and stuff like that without breaking. Boats are, like if you're talking a real fragile, built for speed, built it just strong enough so you can keep it as light, that's a different type of boat. But most boats are actually pretty well built that, I would risk the slightly less build of the keel to have something that performed a little bit better, because again, I'd rather have something that's fun to sail too. Even if you're doing a liveaboard, if it's just about doing a liveaboard, buy a pontoon boat. You know what I mean? But if you actually want to travel with it, you definitely want something that's going to hold a decent cruise speed. Like it doesn't have to win any races, but to me, I don't think I want anything under a 7 knot or 8 knot boat. So if I ever wanted to get a boat that would go across the ocean, I don't want to be sitting at 6 knots. I want to be at 8, 10, 12 knots. You know what I mean? So you're talking a fast boat. And fast boats are expensive. All boats are expensive, but fast boats are expensive. So that is kind of some of the reason why you don't see as many cutaway keels being designed now. You do see some, but the cutaway keel, I think, is given away to the shoal keel, where it's a fin keel that it looks like somebody took the bottom of it, smashed it up, rolled it up into a ball, and put some wings on it, like a torpedo. And that seems to be the one that kind of, it gives you the heavy mass at the bottom to right the boat, but it also takes your boat that would normally be 6 or 7 foot draft into the 5-foot, 4-foot area. Some of the keels will be coming down like this. So the shoal keels will come down, and there's like a big flat winglet on the bottom of it, and it's all lead. That's all the ballast. Now, the problem with those is that, you get those things hung up. It's something to smack against, but it gives you the best of both worlds. Once again, allows you to have a really big boat in shallower waters. So everything's always a trade-off. So safer, the problem with safer is that a boat that can't respond as fast to rough weathers or rough seas, like a big keel boat, is more likely, and with too much sail, is going to be more to handle than a boat that might be a little more lively, but yet, like again, every keel design is slightly different. You might get the compromise that where the boat tracks well, it's not too lively. So whenever things do kick up, you don't have to have as much sail out. You can manage it better, but you're not going to race with the boat, something like this. To the point where you can have a boat that's just too twitchy, like it's an outright race boat, and it's like 90% racer, 10% cruiser. A boat like that, yeah. But that's people, when people buy those boats, they know what they're getting. So you can find boats like, for example, like a CNC 29 or a CNC 27. I've been on them. I've never been out sailing on them, but I've watched the back end of those boats many times. They just the boat I really like. If I ever had the money, it'd be a CNC 24 plus. Not very many of them out there. The performance handicap of that boat is like something like 81, 77 or 81. It's like, I mean, that thing is flying, and that's a fixed keel boat. Like, but the CNC 29, the CNC 34, all those boats, the Mirage 27, the Mirage 25, or the Kirby 25, that thing is a rocket ship. That's like a 25-foot boat that will easily do 8, 9, 10 knots going upwind, but it's a light air boat. It's basically the Canadian version of a J22. They don't make them anymore, but or J24. Yeah, it's a Kirby Mirage. The Kirby 25 is that's a boat I really got my eye on, and they're out there. You know, they're out there. Get them under 10 grand, but they're pretty much a racer. They're 4 foot underneath and stuff like that. But when I bought this, I wanted a bit of a boat I was going to spend a lot of time on and very roomy, and I did a liveaboard on this for 2 seasons. So basically, if you added it up, probably spent about 8 months living on this boat in 2 seasons. So yeah, there's that. So I learned a lot about living on a boat. Okay, I'm just going to wrap it up. Do one more video on it, and then we'll wrap it up.